So Porter talked about his 5 forces. We're talking about structure and processes. And this is the modified 5 forces. And so, yes, it's about suppliers, substitutes, but also complements. And also new entrants as well as buyer power to go along with supplier power. Going along with new entrants, meaning external forces that you're going to have to contend with, also goes into looking at barriers of entry as well as regulatory issues. Those are also things. So when I think about new entrants, what I'm really talking about is external pressure. And so that's one way that what my structure has to address. The other viewpoint of it is about your value chain. And so now you're talking about suppliers and buyers. And so in terms of capturing value, I have to create value and I have to capture that value. My approach is what are my strategy for a lifetime? And what it comes down to is business and tech strategy have to go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So in terms of capturing value, the things I need to think about is, do I make it or do I buy it? And so what is valuable enough that I should be making as opposed to buying it? Standards are an issue. Am I dealing with networks? And finally, is my business about platforms? So some of the considerations in terms of make versus buy is, how profitable is it for me to make it versus buying it? And if I make it myself, say the person who I'm buying it from is making a 50% margin. Will I keep that 50% margin? Is what I'm doing unique? Do I really want to give away something that's unique? No, you probably want to keep it in-house. What are my IP issues? What is it that I can actually learn? And what kind of risk am I talking about? Because now I'm turning it over to somebody else. Are they going to make it as well as I do? Are they going to keep the schedule and everything else? Growth takes place during the ferment and mature age. But the one thing about outsourcing is you can't buy profit. If you can buy profit, everybody would just go out and outsource. But you have to recognize the things that people can do better than you. And that's what Tim Cook talked about with Apple. And that's, they said, we're not any good at getting 10,000 people, putting a building up and making them work 60 hours a week. But places like China do it much better than we do. And so that's why we're there. In terms of standards, standards are about access and control. And so when I talk about access, am I talking about closed technology or platforms or open? In terms of control, is this open to the public or is it private? And so some examples are like internet protocols are open to the public, or something like Linux. Whereas if they're private but they're open, it means that I still have control over it, but I'm going to let other people do it. And so typically, like when you have a platform, you allow developers access to it. And so public and closed is that it's only controlled by the public but not freely available, like cryptography. And the technology can be a standard, but the details don't go past the company itself. Now, in terms of networks, you can have direct networks, and those are where the power of your network is going to grow by n squared. Indirect networks are benefits I get external from my company. For example, Instagram or Pinterest. Where do they get their value from? You're the one who's putting those pictures and creating the content for them. And so those are referred to as externalities. These are also complements. And so the other issues about standards is, if I create a standard, can I teach them a skill that they're going to want? They're only going to use it once, like the QWERTY keyboard. And so what happens is, in terms of value, a standard product is pretty flat, depending on the number of users I have. But the power of a network is it can go up second order the more install base I have. There's also an issue of the tipping point, and that's that you just kind of muddle along, and then all of a sudden all the value goes from one platform versus the other. So in terms of platforms, the thing I'm interested in is, internally, How am I going to control my platform? How much content do I need to create? Who's going to be allowed to use it? Are there legal issues? These are the things that Facebook is facing right now. Complementers are people who can create things for my platform. Who are the ones who create value, my design and IP? And finally, do I focus on me internally or do I focus on the ecosystem? Part of the reason why Microsoft as well as Intel created venture capital funds is, what is Intel investing in? They're investing in Internet of Things companies because they want more data. More data means they sell bigger and better processes and can charge more. Some of the challenges of being in the platform business is that somebody can encroach into your platform area. And so it's like Windows started expanding into middleware. It wasn't enough that they stayed as an operating system. Expansion, and that's that I want to release complementary products, such as the Windows people had MS Office. That's a complementary product. And finally, the complementers, those are people that you need. And for example, again with Windows, you need those software developers, people who make applications like AutoCAD that could be put on your product. And that's what we mean by complementers. The last part of the core is delivering value, and that's executing. And that's everything we've talked about this semester. The vision sets your goals and objectives, helps you develop your strategy, and that's about people. Also, a lot of companies use phase gate reviews, and this is the faster I can decide not to do something, the more money I'm going to save. And so at each step, you have cross-functional teams that get together and make a decision. Should we let them pass this gate or not? So summarizing, strategy for technology revolves around creating value, capturing value, and delivering value. Value creation, the creation part, is about applying technology, understanding the market, and knowing what my customer wants. Capturing value is, in order for me to capture that value, what am I doing that's unique? What resources are growing out of that? Because through those resources, that's how I capture the value, whether it's customers or money or whatever. And subsequently, the details that drive capturing those resources is about my 5 forces. And finally, delivering that value is about my vision and my mission and my processes. And they all have to play together and help each other.